Mr. Richards here. Today's 7th grade, Unit 4, Lesson 8, Anchor Problems, covers the topic of solving and graphing one-step inequalities. And before we get going, important to review a few things, such as what are these inequality symbols? And if you have something like x, this symbol 2, this means x is less than 2. Remember that. It's always pointing towards the smaller. X is less than 2. So like 1, 0, -1 would all fit for x. They're all less than 2. If you had x is less than with the line or equal to 2, x is less than or equal to 2. And so 2 would work, as would 1, 0, -1, and so on for x. Compare that then to x is greater than 2. Or x is greater than or equal to 2. X is greater than or equal to 2. Other little things we're going to point out when you get onto a number line, the less than and the greater than are going to be open circles on the number line. When you get to the less than or equal to, or the greater than or equal to, those are going to be closed circles on the number line. So if you had a little mini number line here, where this was 2, x is less than 2, you have shading where everything is smaller than 2 with the open circle and so on. All right. And so again, this rest of this unit will take us through inequalities, but it's good to have that basic foundation to make sure we know what we're doing. So problem 1. An airline allows passengers to bring a suitcase that weighs less than 30 pounds onto an airplane for free. If a suitcase weighs 30 pounds or more, then the passenger will be charged a fee. Elena is going on a trip and is packing her suitcase. Her suitcase weighs 4 8/10 pounds when it's empty. A. Elena packs 25 pounds in her suitcase and she believes that she can safely avoid the fee. Is she correct? Explain your reasoning. Well, if the suitcase is normally 4 8/10 pounds when empty, and you add 25 pounds to that, you end up with 29 8/10 pounds. Now, the restriction comes in at 30. The fee comes in at 30. So as long as this number is less than 30, which it is, 29 8/10 is less than 30, then yes. Ooh, that's a terrible lie. Let's try that again. Yes, it's not much better. Yes, Elena can avoid the fee since her packed bag is less than 30 pounds. Now in B, write an inequality to represent the number of pounds that Elena can pack in her suitcase and not pay the fee. Well, we don't know. And in math, when we don't know a number, or it can be a variety, a variable amount of things, you can call that x. Now x plus the 4 8/10 that it already was is going to need to be less than that 30 pounds. What she packs plus what the suitcase weighs needs to be less than the 30 pounds. Now, just like equations, we can use inverse opposite operations we can subtract 4 8/10 from both sides of this inequality here. And as we solve this, we're going to get x is less than 25 2/10. So as long as the suitcase weight, or as long as what she packs is less than 25 2/10, then her 4 8/10 pound suitcase will be under the 30 pounds. Now, to graph this, I know it did not ask for a graph necessarily, but just to get that little bit of extra practice in here, the way I like to graph is I draw a number line, put a line in the middle-ish, put a circle, and label it with the number I solved for. So in this case, 25 2/10. I like to pick a number smaller, like 20. I like to pick a number bigger, like 30. And then when it comes to shading, don't automatically assume that it's where it's pointing is where you're shading. Test these numbers. What do I mean? Put in 20 for x. Is 20 less than 25 2/10? Yes. Test the other one just in case. Is 30 less than 25 2/10? No. So we're going to shade towards where it's true, which is towards this 20 here. So as long as, again, she packs less than 25 2/10, so 20, 10, 1, her bag will be under that 30-pound limit before there's a fee. She packs more than 25 2/10, or even if she packed 25 2/10, she'd be at that 30 pounds and get a fee, which is why we don't shade in the circle here, because it's just a less than question. All right, problem 2. Which graph below shows all values of x is less or greater than or equal to negative 2.5? Welp, this is a less than graph. This is a greater than graph. This is a greater than graph. And so as we look at these, open circle means it does not include negative 2.5. This one does. And so graph C, since you can see that this is shaded in here at negative 2.5, this is the graph of x is greater than or equal to negative 2.5. Now, which graph below shows all values x is less than negative 2.5? Well, only one graph is going towards the less than. Only one graph shows us what is less than negative 2.5. Like negative 3 is less than 2.5. Negative 4 is less than 2.5. So that's going to be graph A, that x is less than negative 2.5 here. And lastly, for the remaining graph, that's B, what inequality represents the solution shown on the graph? Well, we're here at negative 2.5, and we're getting bigger. So all these values for x are greater than negative 2.5, and we're just going to keep it at greater than because it doesn't include negative 2.5. It's an open circle, so we're not putting a line underneath. Negative 2 is greater than negative 2.5. Negative 1 is greater than negative 2.5. So that's that graph. And believe it or not, that is it for these anchor questions in this 7th grade lesson for Unit 4, Lesson 8. Good luck.